News with Mitsumi Takahashi.
Good evening. There appears to be a lot of Quebecers who say they wouldn't mind paying tolls on roads, but that's only if the money is used for road repair. The question is whether that's an idea that could work. Matt Grillo reports.
It has been a particularly bad year for potholes. It's not just on city streets, but highways too, and a lot of motorists are fed up.
They're not doing anything right now. They won't change.
Quebec spends billions on maintaining roads, yet the road maintenance deficit sits at approximately $24 billion. To help fill that gap, the idea of adding tolls has been floated, and a Léger poll put the question to Quebecers. Would they be in favor of adding tolls to certain roads to help finance road maintenance? 48% are in favor, 46% are opposed. Some drivers who CTV spoke with say tolls could help, as long as the money actually goes to road repairs.
If they use the money right, it works. I think so.
If it's used properly.
If it's used properly. We have no reason to believe it will be used properly.
If the money goes to the repair, yes, it's okay.
Former Quebec Transport Minister Robert Poetti is surprised that many Quebecers want more tolls.
Honestly, when you ask citizens of Quebec if they are willing to pay a little bit more, right now they are going to say we have so much taxes, pay for tolls. I don't think they are going to be very happy.
Some motorists think tolls are a bad idea.
We pay already too much for, and they don't do nothing for the street.
When asked for a comment about the recent survey and adding more tolls, Quebec Transport Minister Benoit Charette said 71% of Quebec's 10-year infrastructure plan is dedicated to infrastructure maintenance. And he went on to say, this approach cannot be sustained indefinitely. I believe it is necessary to consider complementary solutions. Over the coming weeks, I will evaluate the best options with my colleagues to ensure the safety and quality of our road infrastructure.
Put money on the road 50 years ago was a good idea for politicians. It's not that anymore now. We have to talk about health. We have to talk about kids, school.
Premier Christine Fréchette said she will look at the possibility of adding tolls, but doesn't think they will be implemented province-wide. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
The new law on tipping came into effect last year, but it seems a lot of bars and restaurants are ignoring it. More than 500 of them are facing complaints. Christine Long reports.
The rule came into effect after post-pandemic tip culture spiked.
People were sick of being asked for tips and more tips, and so that's why the new regulation took place.
There's already like the taxes, but then there's service fees, delivery fees, and then tip.
When it's in a restaurant, I'm like, okay, well, it's normal, but yeah, for takeout, no.
As of February, Quebec's Consumer Protection Office has received 531 complaints about merchants charging tips on the total after taxes. That's against the rules, says Charles Tanguay.
Forbids merchant to enhance one form or one percentage instead of the other. They should be presented neutrally, so don't feel obliged to give a better tip.
He says 200 notifications were sent out to non-compliant businesses. Some blamed their electronic payment providers who were slow to update their systems.
Regulation was announced long before it took force, but it's what we've been told also, that it takes time to adapt.
If a merchant who has received a warning is the subject of more complaints, a fine can be issued. Some clients we spoke to said they don't check if the tip is calculated, including the tax.
I do not check.
Oh, I didn't check at all. I don't really know.
Others said keep a keen eye on the total before you tap.
You try to check if you understand how the numbers are adding up.
Sometimes I find they put a little bit, like a few cents that are not supposed to be there, so it's really important to check it out.
Tanguay says buyer beware.
Tipping have to be volunteer, and if you're not satisfied, you don't be shy, and you can give less tip or no tips at all.
My barbers get tipped pretty well.
If you work in service, you have to tip. Tipping is about karma.
Christine Long, CTV News.
Quebec Première Christine Fréchette is in Washington, her first official foreign visit since she became Premier. The visit comes ahead of trade negotiations between Canada, the U.S. and Mexico. They're set to start in July. Jean-François Poudrier of Nouveau Info joins us from Washington. Hi, Jean-François. Looking like a nice day. It's a nice day in Washington, it looks like. So Christine Fréchette met with an influential member of President Donald Trump's cabinet today.
Yes, actually she had quite a busy day today. She said this morning when she arrived that she was here to defend the interests of Quebec, and she had a lot of meetings, but the most important one was with the United States Trade Representative, Jamieson Greer. It was not planned in the schedule of the meetings today, so it was a surprise, and she actually was able to talk to him first with about the Quebec energy sector that is quite important in the renegotiation of the free trade agreement with Canada, United States and Mexico, and as well she talked about the importance of supply management for Quebec in that negotiation. She also met with the Canadian ambassador here in Washington, Mark Wiseman, and also met with representatives from Congress, both from Republican side and the Democratic side. She also at noon met in a restaurant here with different representatives from industries, aluminum industry, lumber industry, trade boards as well from the United States, and we can listen to what she had to say to them just before that meeting.
It was one of my priorities to come to Washington in order to discuss the USMCA with you and our trade relationship as well, and our relationship mutual context as well, of course. There are a lot of changes in the international context, and I think that we had to share ideas and maybe implement collaborations between us in order to face those headwinds. And I'm really glad that you answered positively.
So as far as results now, we'll have to wait for another hour. She will meet Christine Fréchette with reporters around 7:15 at the Quebec Bureau here in Washington. We'll know probably more about what was the discussions with Jamieson Greer and the other representative from Congress and what are the results she's going to bring back to Quebec tonight.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this, Jean-François. And that was Jean-François Poudrier of Nouveau Info in Washington. Quebec business groups are watching the meetings closely, and they say there's a sense of urgency given the state of the trade war.
Our ask is for her to reinforce the importance of the relationship between Quebec and American business communities, but especially to be able to put pressure on our counterparts for them to be more vocal with the Trump administration. We need as many companies, business associations, and elect representatives from the Congress to be able to speak out about the impact that this is having on American companies and American workers as well. A
Quebec furniture company has become the latest casualty in the U.S.-Canada trade war. The company, South Shore Furniture, is laying off 126 employees and it's shutting down. People in the lumber industry are now calling on Ottawa to impose tariffs on imports of international wood furniture and flooring. They say Canada is being flooded by cheap wood products made in Asia. And they say Chinese products in particular are underselling Canadian products because they benefit from Chinese government subsidies.
In Canada, my company needs to make a profit every year to survive, or else we're out of business, we're no longer around. In China, the whole country needs to make a profit, not necessarily an industry or a sector. So they'll be giving subsidies, for example, to the wood industry because it employs a lot of people, often in remote areas. So it's a good thing to the country to keep these people employed. They don't need to make a profit.
The Wood Products Alliance is calling on Ottawa to impose provisional tariffs on imported wood products. Well, it was the worst-kept political secret. NDP MP Alexandre Bouleris confirmed today that he is leaving federal politics to run for Quebec Solidaire in the provincial election this fall. Bouleris will sit as an independent MP until the Quebec election is officially called. Earlier this year, Quebec Solidaire changed its rules on gender parity so that Bouleris could run in the riding of Gouin. That is the riding currently held by Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois, who is not running again. Bouleris says he wants to help people who are on low incomes.
I'm making those choices because I believe in it. I believe in those values, in those solutions, in the proposition, in the program of Québec Solidaire. At least nobody can tax me to be an opportunist.
Bouleris was a founding member of Quebec Solidaire before he was elected as an NDP MP under Jack Layton in 2011. With his departure, the NDP now just have 5 MPs in the House of Commons. Canadians will soon have a direct financial stake in the country's major nation-building projects. The Prime Minister today announced Canada Strong Fund. Here's Mike Lukachuk.
Canada's first national sovereign wealth fund.
Using a Canadian Pacific Railway train as a backdrop, the Prime Minister says the new fund will allow Canadians to contribute to projects that will build the nation, like the Iron Spine did 150 years ago. The federal government will put up $25 billion and is counting on Canadians to also invest.
But we intend to provide it in a way where the investment itself, the actual amount of money is protected. It's something consistent to buying a government bond, but has the upside, the additional return when these projects realize their potential.
Carney added the fund will operate as an independent arm's-length Crown corporation. He also compared it to Norway's Wealth Fund, which is worth more than $2 trillion US. But some economists warn there is a difference.
The funding model in Norway might work better because it's funded through surpluses. But here we need to make sure that we have a stable budget and get rid of those deficits before we think of injecting more money.
Pierre Poilievre points out the Liberals created the Defense Industry Bank and the Infrastructure Bank, which the Conservative leader contends have not borne fruit.
It's déjà vu all over again. Borrowing yet another $25 billion out of the economy to subsidize projects that the government still cannot figure out how to approve.
Carney says the Infrastructure Bank and other agencies do work.
All of those entities are helping underlying businesses at the core to move forward.
The Prime Minister sees this as an opportunity for ordinary Canadians to invest a little money into big Canadian projects. But with the ongoing affordability crisis, it's unclear how many people will have the means to do so. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Rogers Communications is offering buyouts to half of its workforce, and it's blaming the current economic environment. A spokesman told the Globe and Mail Rogers is adjusting its cost structure to, quote, reflect the business realities. Rogers employs 25,000 people. According to reports, on-air talent, Sportsnet employees and unionized workers are not eligible for the buyouts. There's a growing call to stop online violence, and there was a rally today on Parliament Hill demanding the government take action. Rachel Aiello reports.
Time is up. Youth from across the country came to the nation's capital today with a clear message.
The time is up. Stop the delay and protect the kids today.
Armed with a stack of letters addressed to every single member of Parliament, they are calling on the federal government to urgently introduce and pass online safety legislation.
I have been waiting a third of my life for this to be reality.
As the first generation growing up fully online, they spoke about feeling unsafe on social media, using AI chatbots, and playing video games.
We can't vote, but our voices matter.
Parents who have seen what damage can be done to kids online were also there, including Amanda Todd's mother, who has long been demanding action after her daughter, a victim of cyberbullying, died by suicide.
Her story shocked this country, but what should shock us even more is that more than a decade later, children are still being harmed in the same ways.
The Liberals have been promising some form of online harms legislation since 2019. Two different versions were tabled in Parliament and scrutinized, but both bills died between the last two federal elections. The youth then hit the Hill, meeting with decision makers from all parties to lobby for a new online harms bill this spring. Their push comes on the heels of Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew committing to ban social media and AI for children in his province.
Our kids will never be for sale, and their attention and their childhoods should never be profited from.
Well, as a parent, I share the same concerns as many parents. Too much screen time, highly addictive algorithms.
Today, the group also met with Mark Miller, the minister responsible for future online harms legislation. He's yet to say when a new bill may be ready, as he's still consulting experts on what its scope should be. But the youth told me today they won't let another year pass without action. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
A report today that anti-Semitism in Canada has reached record levels. B'nai B'rith says since the October 7th attacks by Hamas in 2023, anti-Semitism in Canada has hit unprecedented levels. It says last year there were 6,800 acts of violence, harassment and vandalism aimed at Jews in Canada. The increases were in BC and in Ontario. Quebec and Alberta saw some declines.
The sustained year-over-year increase in incidents of anti-Jewish hate make it clear that, when it comes to anti-Semitism, we have become a nation that tolerates disgraceful levels of hate.
According to Statistics Canada, hate crimes have increased steadily over the past 6 years, with Jewish and Muslim communities the most targeted religious groups. Police have set up a command post in the St. Dorothy section of Laval. They're looking for someone who's been approaching children. They've set up the command post at Jolibourg and Bordelot. It will be there until 7 o'clock tonight. Police say last Monday at around 5 o'clock, someone driving this blue Nissan Versa approached a young boy and started asking him questions. Police say others have also been approached in a similar way. Anyone with any information about the driver being asked to call Info Police at 450-662-INFO. And coming up, they say the gunman was targeting Donald Trump.
The deranged lies and smears against the president, his family, his supporters have led crazy people to believe crazy things.
And there are more questions about how the gunman was able to get so close. And the first state visit in almost 20 years. The King and Queen are in America. The White House is calling the shooting at Saturday night's Correspondents' Gala another attempt on the U.S. president's life. The suspect made his first court appearance today. Joy Melvin has more.
In that terrifying moment, the president and first lady rushed out. In the chaos and confusion, police with guns drawn, there are more questions about how a would-be assassin could have gotten this close. The suspect, California teacher 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen, who was a guest at the hotel and sprinted past a security checkpoint, shooting at an officer and then arrested.
Today, the Department of Justice filed 3 federal charges. The first count is attempted assassination of the President of the United States. The second count is interstate transportation of a firearm to commit a felony. And the third count is discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence.
Authorities are digging into Allen's past, including a lengthy manifesto he allegedly sent to his family, describing himself as a friendly federal assassin. He wrote he was enraged by the Trump administration officials and would target the highest ranking to the lowest. Pedophile Jeffrey Epstein not mentioned by name in the manifesto, but on 60 Minutes, the president was asked about the gunman's words.
Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person.
The president praised law enforcement, but after being targeted 3 times, the White House is blaming Democrats and the media for the increase in political violence.
The deranged lies and smears against the president, his family, his supporters have led crazy people to believe crazy things, and they are inspired to commit violence because of those words. It has to stop.
The White House will review security protocols and possible lapses before future events that include another press dinner, the World Cup, and America's big birthday bash in July. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
King Charles and Queen Camilla are back on U.S. soil for a visit to commemorate America's 250th birthday. But this trip is also seen as a way to try to mend political fences between the U.S. and the U.K. Christian Cadero has the latest from Washington.
The British King and Queen arrived on U.S. soil today, taking steps of diplomacy between the two countries. It's the first official U.S. state visit by a British monarch in almost 2 decades and is pegged as a way to commemorate the shared history of the U.S. and U.K. ahead of America's 250th birthday.
It's a question of the respect between the two offices, not necessarily the people, though they get on quite well. It's a very small pond and a very important link.
The visit comes at a tense time. President Trump criticized British Prime Minister Keir Starmer for not helping his administration's efforts in the war with Iran and has threatened to impose tariffs on the UK if it doesn't drop a digital services tax. But when it comes to the royals, the president considers King Charles a friend.
He's a friend of mine for a long time, so he's coming and we're going to have a great time, and he represents his nation like nobody else can do it.
Also in the spotlight, the Epstein scandal. Epstein survivors asked to meet with the King and Queen amid 2 active investigations into the King's brother, disgraced Andrew, and Britain's former ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson, on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The royal couple declined to set up such a meeting, citing fear of prejudicing the investigations. Both men have denied any wrongdoing and have not been formally charged. Tomorrow, the King and Queen will receive a formal welcome here at the White House before addressing Congress on Capitol Hill. They will then come back here to the White House for a state dinner. Christian Cordero, ABC News, the White House.
The Carney government will release its spring economic update tomorrow. This is the first update since the federal budget in November. The Prime Minister has indicated that the update will include some changes to previously announced measures. The Bank of Canada will also be releasing its next interest rate decision on Wednesday. And 1 year after Mark Carney became Prime Minister, Canadians appear to be evenly split on how well he's doing. An Angus Reid poll was conducted just after the Liberals became a majority government 2 weeks ago. 41% said the Carney government had met or exceeded expectations, but another 41% said it had failed to do so. Also, 34% said Canada was on the right track under the Carney government. 42% disagreed. Ivaline Fleming has died. She was 101 years old. Fleming was a founding member of the Jamaica Association of Montreal. She was also the association's first female president. She went on to form the Jamaican Canadian Community Women's League of Montreal.
Sister Fleming had that in her. She had a fire in her, that she had a goal in mind. She set forward to achieving her goals. And she met with whomever she needed to meet, whether it was Jean Doré or whether it was Justin Trudeau. She did not shy away from hard discussions and being frank but respectful, and in ensuring that people are represented and are supported by local and federal government. She was no nonsense, but she was loving and kind at the same time.
And coming up, the reviews are not great.
Spread love, joy, and peace.
But the movie is breaking box office records. And why are there so many American tourists coming to Canada? The old debate over breast versus bottle feeding babies is back. It is generally acknowledged that babies should be breastfed, but that doesn't mean that all women or babies should be doing it. Dr. Christopher Labos joins us. So, hi, Chris.
Hi.
So, in general, what are the benefits of breastfeeding?
Well, so there's a number of benefits to both the mother and the baby. Generally, for the baby, it's infection protection. So the transfer of antibodies from mother to baby usually protects them against respiratory and gastrointestinal illnesses. The other big one is that, especially in preterm babies, breast milk, usually donor breast milk, can be protective against a condition called necrotizing enterocolitis, where the intestine can actually become inflamed and even die. But the big benefit to breast milk relative to bottle feed is that breast milk is free. And while that might be not so much of a concern if you're living in Montreal, there are obviously parts of the world where the fact that it is free is a major economic factor that is helpful for, public health.
But Chris, there was a time going back to the 1970s when women were not breastfeeding, and why was that?
So it was a combination of factors. Don't forget, from the 60s into the 70s, there was a lot of societal change. Women were going into the workforce, so they had less time to breastfeed. Also, more and more women were actually giving birth in hospital rather than giving birth at home. And so hospitals used to have, or they wanted to have, sort of a regimen where they fed all the babies at the same time. So that's where the bottles became much more convenient. And bottle formulas just started to become more prevalent and cheaper. So a lot of factors conspired to make bottle feeding more popular and breastfeeding much, much less popular, which is why you started to see this very drastic decline in breastfeeding rates over the course of the 20th century.
But now then, we've got this idea that bottle feeding is not healthy, and that does create stress for women who can't breastfeed, right?
Right, because the breast is best and all the similar campaigns which were initiated to try to reverse that downward trend have been largely successful, because breastfeeding rates are back up, perhaps not to where we want them to be, but certainly much higher than they were in the 70s when they were at a real low point. But the negative consequence to that is that, for women who cannot breastfeed because of infection, because of pain, or because of any number of reasons, there's this almost this stigma associated with it. So it's almost as if the pendulum has swung a bit too far in the other direction and has led people to think that bottle feeding is dangerous, when in fact it's not. It's maybe not quite as good as breastfeeding, but it's certainly not going to be detrimental. Again, if you're living in Montreal, you have the money to pay for it and you have access to clean drinking water, which is the limitation in many other parts of the world.
And while there are benefits to breastfeeding, Chris, there are some extreme claims about breastfeeding that just don't hold up.
Yeah, so all the infection stuff that I mentioned, that's, I think, very well supported by science. But then you start to see other stuff that people say that, breastfeeding is going to help boost your child's IQ. It's going to help prevent childhood obesity. It's going to help prevent allergies later in life. And the evidence base for that is very, very shaky. So, don't forget, once you stop breastfeeding, as everyone does, the benefits are really going to start to fall off. And so while there's a lot of benefits very early in life, the minute you start getting into sort of the toddlers and, your young childhood, it's becoming increasingly unlikely that what you ate for the first, few months of your life is really going to have that much of an impact on your long-term health.
So overall, Chris, what are the general protocols for breastfeeding and for bottle feeding?
So there are some differences between Canada, the US, and the WHO globally, but overall, exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, meaning, just breastfeeding for 6 months, at which point you want to start introducing solid foods because breastfeeding no longer becomes sufficient for the caloric needs of the baby. And then as you start introducing more and more foods, you start to wean off the breast milk. In Canada, there's no firm cutoff for when you would stop, but most people usually use 1 year at the point where this no longer becomes really strictly necessary. There are obviously cultural variations, and globally there are parts of the world where people breastfeed for much longer. But in Canada, I think most people would tell you exclusively for 6 months, probably up to 1 year, at which point you really need to start eating solid food, and really breast milk bottle feeding, you're using the same sort of time scale there because they are very, very similar biochemically.
Okay, thank you very much for this, Chris.
My pleasure. You take care.
Weather brought to you by Gratianscaf. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Well, we had summer-like weather today thanks to a high-pressure system that brought Montreal beautiful sunshine as well as warmer than seasonal temperatures. And we can see that in today's daytime high of 23 degrees, and typically we'd be at 14. Now, this wasn't record-breaking heat, believe it or not. We would have had to surpass 30 degrees to break the record that was set in 1990. Now, putting our futurecast into motion, we can see what we're dealing with over the next 24 hours. So clear skies at this time, and we'll hold on to that into the early morning hours, starting our Tuesday off with mostly sunny skies. Into the afternoon, we'll start to see increasing cloud, and that is ahead of a spotty low pressure system that is expected to impact Montreal around 6 or 7 p.m. And once again, it is spotty and it is passing through, so it looks like we could be dealing with it until about 1 or 2 in the morning, and we're thinking it's about 1 to 2 millimeters of rain, so not a significant rainfall. Certainly will help the grass after the next couple of days with the higher, warmer air, I should say, that we've been seeing. And then as we start our Wednesday, cloudy skies to begin, and we have a preview of a system that once again will come in from the west, and it will be bringing us additional rainfall on Wednesday afternoon into the evening. So tonight we're seeing clear skies, holding on to some of that warmer air with a low of 8 degrees. We'd typically be around 4, so this is on the warmer side. Tomorrow we start our day off at 10 degrees with mostly sunny skies. Into the afternoon we'll see that mercury climb to 22, so another warm day with increasing clouds later into the day. And once again, we do have a 40% chance of showers. We saw that spotty system could bring to 1 to 2 millimeters of rain. And another part of our weather story is that we could be dealing with southeasterly winds, I should say, gusting up to 50 kilometers an hour. So you may want to hold on to your hat if you're wearing one tomorrow. Our longer range forecast does show that we have rain on Wednesday. We're looking around 14 millimeters in the afternoon, 5 millimeters of rain on Thursday, cloudy on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, we're calling for a mix of sun and clouds closer to seasonal temperatures. And this time next week, cloudy skies with a high of 14.
The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is affecting more than just oil prices. It's also raising the prices of fertilizer. And that's an added problem for potato farmers in Prince Edward Island. Maria Saru reports.
On this grading line, potatoes keep rolling, but so do the signs of last year's drought. The team is sorting out defects, and farmer Guy Cudmore says one variety is showing rot he believes could be tied to last year's dry weather. Overall, his crop is down about 30%.
We just slow the process down and put more people on because you have to try to do a good job. It's certainly going to hurt the bottom line.
Adding to the strain is the Iran war. Fuel to run tractors costs more. The price of fertilizer is climbing too. While some island suppliers purchased product last year, the next bill could be bigger for farmers. And while supply was lower here, across North America, it stayed strong, putting downward pressure on prices.
Farmers are going to have to suck it up.
The PEI Potato Board's Greg Donaldson says growers across PEI saw similar yield losses. Climate change remains one of the industry's biggest challenges, and farmers have spent years improving soil health, rotating crops, and trying drought-resistant varieties.
There's been a lot more interest in looking at supplemental irrigation so long as it can be done responsibly.
He adds, spring brings a reset, a chance to adapt and start again. For Cudmore, that starts here, getting this variety through the line before the next crop is in the ground.
Cudmore plans to start planting in early June, and while he's anxious about the season ahead, he's also hopeful it'll be a better one. Maria Saru, CTV News, North Winslow, Prince Edward Island.
Statistics Canada says more Americans are visiting Canada. Camille Wilson spoke to some tourists in Ottawa to try to find out why.
After making their first trip to Ottawa last year, this family is back for another weekend getaway.
We befriended a really wonderful person named Heather. She's from Ontario, and she's actually been my mom's pen pal.
Wonderful place, wonderful people. We can't say enough about it. People are just polite, it's quiet. It gives you a nice, safe feeling.
Visiting from Utica, New York, they are not only big fans of the city.
We came for the women's hockey, and we support the Women's Hockey League. And we kind of adopted the Chargers because we came up here last year. and that became our team.
New data from Statistics Canada shows trips to Canada by United States residents increased 5.9% last year, arrivals by car up 6.8%, and arrivals by air increased 4.8% year over year.
We love Canada. We do love Canada. Everyone's super friendly and welcoming.
These friends celebrating a 40th birthday.
Somewhere different, somewhere new, somewhere fun.
To get away from the States, it's a little different.
Ottawa Tourism says it's heartened by the latest StatsCan data, but U.S. visits to the capital are down compared to last year. However, visitors from the U.S. stayed longer and spent 15% more during their trips to Ottawa.
It's remarkable to have that east-west, north-south commuter, and there's open spaces here that's remarkable. Your parks are beautiful. So everything's well curated. Curated. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Tour companies are looking forward to the upcoming tourism season.
We have our Tulip Festival pre-bookings coming in, and honestly, it's looking pretty good. We're actually up like 30% from last year on the pre-bookings.
Not letting the political tensions get in the way.
Being on the state side is that politics don't represent the people.
Right.
And so we're all individuals. We all understand to a degree what's right and wrong.
I'm not afraid to travel, honestly.
I don't think just the political scene necessarily reflects the people of Canada or the U.S. 100%. So we can 100% absolutely be and then friendly neighbors.
And best believe they will be back.
He wants to come up and ice skate in the winter.
Oh,
That's
yeah, I want to do the canal.
Camille Wilson, CTV News.
It was a record-setting weekend debut for the Michael Jackson movie.
Spread love, joy, and peace.
Michael brought in $97 million in North America and $217 million around the world. That's a record for any biopic. The movie, though, has received mixed reviews. It was financed by the Michael Jackson estate, and it makes no mention of the sexual abuse allegations against Jackson. And coming up, it is more than just a hangover.
Anxiety refers to the emotional symptoms that can come up the morning after you have some drinks.
It seems having too much to drink takes an emotional toll as well. And playoff fever. Why do some Canadians say they have to support an American team?
Menswear provided by Ernest. Elevate your style with Ernest. Your Health, brought to you by Gratianscap's second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Drinking too much alcohol is bad for the body and the mind. Mandy Gator tells us about the symptoms of hangxiety.
It's no secret alcohol isn't considered good for your health, as it raises risk of heart disease, liver damage, and more. It's also the leading preventable cause of several cancers, and it can take a toll on mental health.
Anxiety refers to the emotional symptoms that can come up the morning after you have some drinks.
Dr. Hannah Snyder with Cleveland Clinic says that can include brain fog, anxiety, sadness, irritability, and feelings of regret, guilt, and shame.
People can also experience on the physical side a racing heart, butterflies in the stomach, sweating, and fidgeting.
Snyder says alcohol can also worsen mental health conditions like depression, diagnosed bipolar disorders, psychotic disorders, sleep disorders, ADHD, trauma-related disorders, and can increase risk of suicide. If you choose to drink, she says to be conscious of cocktail consumption.
Some great first steps are eating a healthy meal before drinking, drinking plenty of water, spacing out drinks, and diluting drinks, even with ice.
Snyder says cutting back on alcohol or cutting it out completely may be the most helpful way to avoid anxiety, but she says it all comes down to knowing your body.
For some folks, having a drink or two can feel okay. For others, that won't be part of their lives.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Business News brought to you by Au Vieux de Louvre, where memories and meals come together.
U.S. stocks hit record highs today. Investors are waiting for earnings reports from giant technology firms this week. Andrew Bell has more.
Hello there. America's S&P 500 stock index and the tech-heavy NASDAQ composite Both climbed to new record highs today, even as the conflict in the Persian Gulf threatens to keep oil prices high. Quarterly reports from Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon and Meta are due on Wednesday, followed by Apple a day later. Investors are betting that massive artificial intelligence investments by most of those companies will pay off. But competition looms. China's DeepSeek is slashing prices charged to developers using its AI model. Canadian stocks are still down around 2% from their March 2nd high. Engineering and construction shares rose in Toronto after the Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, announced the Canada Strong Fund, billed as, quote, Canada's first national sovereign wealth fund. It's aimed at stimulating investment in this country. Bird Construction shares rose 2% to hit a record high, and Aecon Group and Atkins Rail Lease were also up. The Canada Strong Fund will get some of its funding via investment from ordinary Canadians, and it's a practice reminiscent of the war bonds that were issued in the two world wars. Finally, global energy producer Shell is buying Canada's ARC Resources, which is a big player in natural gas. The deal is valued at more than $20 billion. ARC shares jumped 21%. The transaction is seen as an endorsement of the Prime Minister's policy of stimulating global energy exports. Shell will use ARC's gas for its LNG Canada export terminal in BC. And finally, the Canadian dollar was up. It changed hands at 73.35 US cents, up 0.17 of a cent. West Texas Intermediate oil changed hands at $96.46, up just over $2. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $73.66, down $1.19. And the TSX Composite ended at 33,818.19, down just less than 86 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The series between the Habs and the Lightning now tied at 2 games apiece. The Lightning won last night, 3-2. Some of the Habs were back on the ice at Bell Centre today. It was an optional skate. Then they head to Tampa for Game 5. It's been a very tight series. Forward Alex Newhook says they knew they were in for a tough fight.
We remain very confident in our group. Best of 3. I don't think anyone thought it was going to be a quick series. They're a good team over there as well. I think we've played some good hockey here in the series, and I think we know what we're capable of when we're going and when we're playing our game. So, we remain confident, and we're excited to get back into action here in Game 5 and take one on the road, hopefully, and then come back home.
Some Ontario hockey fans are supporting an American team during the playoffs. It's a long-standing tradition. Camille Caramali reports.
Believe it or not, this bar packed with Sabres fans isn't in Buffalo or anywhere in the United States.
Let's go, Buffalo!
It's on Canadian soil.
We support Buffalo. We are definitely a Buffalo bar.
Here in the city of St. Catharines in southern Ontario, you'll find plenty of Canadians cheering on the American team that's just across the U.S. border.
Born a Sabres fan. Lifetime season ticket holder from my dad.
Trade tensions with the U.S. heating up this past year, but all that hasn't changed their allegiance on the ice.
We have such a close relationship with our friends in Buffalo and upstate New York. Those friendships should never come between politics.
But most Canadians aren't rooting for Buffalo or any American team. In fact, a new poll by Angus Reid shows nearly 3/4 of Canadians want a Canadian team to win it all, a much higher number than previous years. But at this bar, no obvious choice for a Canadian team to cheer on, with the nearby Toronto Maple Leafs out of the playoffs It's their time to shine, and it's been a long wait.
For years, they had to keep Buffalo a little bit of a secret because they were kind of a little bit of like a laughing stock of the league.
The Sabres with the longest playoff drought in NHL history, 14 years before this magical season.
It gives somebody hope that you stick around long enough, maybe you get to see them win after all.
This bar wasn't even open back then.
Let's go, Buffalo!
And 11-year-old Vanya Barraza wasn't even alive. Her whole life spent waiting for this moment.
It's been like ups and downs, like hoping and like praying that they finally make it.
Now experiencing the playoffs with her father for the very first time.
All I can say is take it all in, because we never know when we're going to get back into it.
So despite the trade war, the cross-border tensions, a story of unity between the two countries, Canadians in a Canadian bar cheering on an American team. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, St. Catharines, Ontario.
The Habs are not the only ones in a playoff mode. So are the Victoires. And Kelly, their series begins this weekend.
Yes, that's right. And the matchup was decided on late last night. Now, I say decided because in the PWHL, whoever finishes in first place in the regular season, which was Montreal, gets to choose their opponent. Instead of taking Ottawa, who upset them last year, Montreal chose the two-time champion Minnesota Frost. Now, that series starts on Saturday, so depending on how games 5 and 6 go with the Canadians this week, we could have two Montreal playoff series happening at the same time. We'll have analysis with Olympic gold medalist Becky Keller tonight on our Late Show. Mitsumi?
Thanks very much, Kelly.
Stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here tonight on CTV.
So it's going to be a nice start to the day tomorrow, Lauren.
Yes, that's right, Mitsumi. We're going to see the beautiful conditions we had today stick around for the next 24 hours. Into the evening hours, it's a little different of story. Let's take a look at what we're expecting. So clear skies overnight tonight, a low of 8. This is actually on the warmer side or milder side because typically we'd see 4 overnight. So a fan is not a bad idea, a lighter blanket to sleep. We start the day off with mostly sunny skies, a wake-up temperature of 10 degrees with a daytime high of 22. We'll start to see increasing cloud later in the day, and we do have a 40% chance of showers. It looks like that would start around 6 o'clock and could go until about midnight or 1 a.m. In addition to that, we have winds gusting from the southeast up to 50 kilometers an hour. Now, this is going to be a pretty pleasant day for the most part. Try and get out and enjoy it because if we look at our longer range forecast, both Wednesday and Thursday we're looking at rain, Friday cloudy, and on Saturday, well, we'll only hit a daytime high of 10 degrees.
And that's it for us. Have a good evening. Stay well. Good night.